Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're doing something pretty incredible. We are literally opening up the ultimate legal evidence board. We're going to objectively break down the monumental 1,045-page Supreme Court judgment to figure out the strict legal and historical evidence behind India's oldest, and let's face it, most complex land dispute. So let's dive right in.
You know, it is just absolutely wild to think that a conflict spanning several centuries, surviving shifting governments, and sparking massive nationwide political movements all boils down to this one tiny number, 2.77. That's 2.77 acres of land, specifically a parcel known in the legal documents as plot number 583.
To really cut through all the heavy rhetoric and understand exactly how the highest court in the land actually made its decision, we're going to tackle this in 6 distinct phases. We'll look at the 2.77-acre dispute, the Mughal and British eras, the 1949 legal shift, the politics in demolition, the ASI scientific survey, and finally, the Supreme Court verdict itself.
Okay, Phase 1, the 2.77-acre dispute, and Plot 583, the epicenter. Let's zoom in on the exact geographical heart of this monumental legal battle.
What's really fascinating here is the sheer scale of the space versus the actual dispute itself. If you've looked at modern maps in the news, you've probably seen this massive 67.7-acre green zone in Ayodhya that the government acquired. But the actual contested legal ground, the exact spot where the Babri Masjid stood, it's merely a 2.77-acre fraction of that entire space. That tiny specific plot is the absolute core of the matter.
Moving on to Phase 2, the Mughal and British eras, building the historical record. We have to step back in time to see how this history built the undeniable foundation that modern courts eventually had to decipher.
The documented legal timeline here is centuries long. It kicks off in 1528 when the mosque was constructed by a commander of the Mughal Emperor Babur, and tensions simmered there for centuries until they really escalated in 1853. That year marks the first recorded property clashes in the area. Then, by 1858, a group of Nihang Sikhs forcefully entered the mosque, conducted worship, and even wrote the name Ram on the walls with coal, and that actually triggered official police complaints at the time.
This next part brilliantly illustrates the court's reliance on historical documentation. Long before anyone had smartphones or video, independent European explorers like Joseph Tiefenthaler and William Finch traveled to Ayodhya, and they documented in their journals that Hindus were actively worshipping at the site. Fast forward to the Supreme Court in 2019, and these centuries-old travelogues served as irrefutable, written proof of continuous faith and possession.
So to quell the rising violent tensions in 1857, the British administration decided they had to physically divide the space. They built this 6 to 7 foot brick and grill partition wall. This forced Muslims to pray inside the inner courtyard, while Hindus were restricted to worshipping at the Ram Chabutra in the outer courtyard. It was an uneasy compromise, and it really merely paused the conflict.
Which brings us to Phase 3, 1949, the legal shift, from beliefs to courtrooms. This is the moment the entire nature of the dispute shifted permanently from local street skirmishes to formal, high-stakes litigation. On a cold winter night in December 1949, everything fractured. Idols of Ram Lalla were placed directly inside the central dome of the mosque. Hindu devotees claimed the deity had miraculously appeared, while Muslim groups filed urgent complaints stating the idols were placed there to seize possession. Fearing massive riots, the government immediately stepped in and locked the premises to both sides.
From this precise moment, formal legal battle lines were drawn between 3 primary parties. You had the Sunni Central Waqf Board claiming ownership for the Muslims, the Nirmohi-Akera, who were the traditional priests of the outer courtyard, and, this is quite unique under Indian law, the deity Ram Lalla himself. The deity was actually recognized as a legal, living entity fighting for his own birthplace in court. How fascinating is that?
Phase 4, politics and the demolition, a nationwide escalation. This marks a dark and turbulent time, as political organizations took the issue from the slow-moving courtrooms directly to the impatient streets.
The situation escalated incredibly rapidly in just a few highly charged steps. In 1986, a court dramatically ordered the gates to be unlocked for Hindu worship. By 1989, a symbolic foundation stone was laid. Then in 1990, a massive 10,000-kilometer political chariot procession, the Rath Yatra,
mobilized millions. And finally, this all culminated on December 6, 1992, when thousands of volunteers breached security and completely demolished the Babri Mosque structure.
The catastrophic fallout from that demolition simply cannot be overstated. It resulted in tragic, nationwide riots across India, everywhere from Mumbai to Gujarat to Delhi. Over 2,000 lives were lost in the ensuing violence, and the country's social and political landscape was fundamentally altered forever.
Moving into Phase 5, the ASI Scientific Survey, Unearthing the Evidence. Seeking concrete, empirical facts over emotional claims, the High Court ordered a strict scientific investigation of the ground beneath the disputed site back in 2003.
The Archaeological Survey of India, or ASI, was brought in to handle this. But before just digging blindly, they deployed ground-penetrating radar to scan beneath the earth. After identifying anomalies, they conducted 6 months of meticulous manual excavations, and this was all done directly under the watchful eyes of judicial officers to ensure absolute transparency.
So what did they actually find? Well, the ASI report definitively concluded that a large, non-Islamic structure did exist beneath the foundations of the mosque. They found indicators completely consistent with an ancient temple. However, and this is a key distinction, they could not scientifically confirm if an active, standing temple was expressly demolished to build the mosque on top of it. Finally, Phase 6, the Supreme Court verdict, final legal resolution. After a highly debated and ultimately rejected split decision by the High Court in 2010, the Supreme Court delivered its final, binding ruling in November 2019. Back in 2010, the High Court had attempted a sort of compromise by splitting the 2.77 acres 3 ways among the litigants. But the Supreme Court explicitly overruled this approach. They noted that land titles cannot be split up like a peace offering. They must be decided strictly on the preponderance of legal evidence. As a result, they awarded the entire 2.77-acre plot to the deity Ram Lalla.
The 5 justices awarded the land based on 4 unwavering pillars of evidence. First, the ASI report proving the underlying non-Islamic structure. Second, those historical travelogues providing written proof of continuous worship. Third, the legal concept of continuous possession, showing Hindus maintained unyielding worship even after the mosque was built. And fourth, the rigorous cross-examination where witnesses held perfectly firm to their testimonies.
Ultimately, the court handed the entire disputed plot to a newly formed government-managed trust to oversee the construction of a Ram Mandir. Simultaneously, to ensure equity under the law, the court directed the government to provide a prominent 5-acre alternative plot in the nearby village of Danipur to the Sunni Waqf Board for the construction of a mosque.
As we wrap up this explainer of the documents, the history, and the cold hard evidence, it really leaves us with a profound question to ponder. When faith spans centuries and stirs the soul of an entire nation, exactly how should modern courts navigate the incredibly complex intersection of ancient history and absolute law? Thank you so much for exploring the evidence board with me today. Keep asking questions and keep seeking